if you could create a game where people can be unbelievably cruel and yet think they're actually righteous, you will have the most prolific game. Like it brings out the absolute worst in humanity. And I've got some theories about why that is that are going to be unpopular, but I think what we got to do is tackle controversial subjects for each of our audiences. You know, because what they keep asking me for is where can we find truth? Because they recognize they can't get it on Fox News, they can't get it on MSNBC, they're not getting it from their politicians. It's where can they find truth because there is no Walter Cronkite anymore. There is no Edward R. Murrow. And I think the most dangerous thing is there's no defender of the centrist view. All you have is, especially on YouTube or social media, you've got extremes of the left and the right that's so extreme when really what we're dealing with is a horseshoe of authoritarianism. Like I don't think the left is really what we have to worry about, or the right is really what we have to worry about. It's authoritarianism, and it seems like it's almost the natural state of mankind. So how can we like cut through the white noise and get to the truth? And my belief is when we can turn to people like Greg Lukianoff as a finger on the pulse of it, I think that's a step in the right direction. So, like,
Uh,
what? Well, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm a little disappointed because I thought we were going to talk about how the Dolphins beat the Jets last week, 30-0. But having my perspective when it comes to how news is delivered in two languages, in particular in South Florida, I've noticed one thing. Number one, folks are, if you're tuning into linear, what they call linear television, which is basically saying traditional TV
Yeah.
newscasts, it's more than anything to obtain local news.
Right.
That's what you're looking mostly for. When it comes to national news, to network news, international coverage of conflicts like we're seeing right now in Israel and Gaza, they it's troubling because I do think that you don't have that straight news format, because even on the programs on cable news that are supposed to be straight news, there is some kind of opinion injected into the coverage dependent upon who they choose to analyze or provide, not necessarily the reporter. I'm not specifically saying the journalist, although that could be the case in some circumstances, but the analyst that they bring in, or analysts, sometimes it's more than one, they can present a perspective, and that could be somewhat troubling. The other issue is, of course, how much time you have to explain something. And folks, we're entering into the TikTok era where
Yeah.
most folks, they're getting their information instead of from these traditional news outlets, again, with the exception of local television. I think local television is figuring it out. They honestly are understanding, we, in order to disseminate information, we've got to go more mobile, we've got to go more social media than just on what we have on a screen, because that's changing completely. But at the network level and everything else, I think we have a major challenge with finding truth. And it's immediately, I think the books that we're going to be discussing, or one particular book, it also leads to, when you don't have this one source, a Walter Cronkite, which obviously I was not alive when he was in his prime, but I obviously can look it up, whether it's on YouTube or see other reports. And you can read the historical record. When Walter Cronkite basically soured on the Vietnam War effort, there went public opinion in the United States. I
Yeah.
don't see that one individual today. And it's not meant to, it's not because we have a lack of professional journalists. I am not saying that. In fact, I work with very professional journalists. Again, two stations, two languages, and I do some network coverage for them as well. But it's the world as it is. The world as it is today won't allow for a Walter Cronkite, and your news is not long form; it is short form, and then it's more difficult to find that truth. And what is the fact that we are supposed to be extracting from this, and what is not? And it is a very scary time. I think we make it through it because we always have to evolve, but it is a very scary time. And psychologically, we all have to understand that we have to do our own. It's our own responsibility to find out, to seek out what that truth is.